And the Predators themselves, I have to say, like, they're handled with remarkable restraint and reverence by Trachtenberg and his people. Their culture, the hierarchy, and code of honor aren't just like hinted at. They're explored with a genuine curiosity. And Badlands deepens the lore without drowning it in exposition, portraying like the Yautja. I always thought it was Yauta, but it's Yautja society as harsh, honorable, but at times divided at times. And I think Deck's vulnerability as a societal outcast adds a dimension the franchise has rarely kind of approached, certainly with the Predators. In that inversion, seeing the Predator not as an unstoppable hunter, certainly a badass, no question, throughout the movie, but also as someone hunted and despised by his own society. And I think the franchise finds new emotional stakes because of that. It makes it really interesting to me. Predator Badlands has just come out, and I have been very excited to talk about it after seeing it. But I do want to start off by saying that, I've been a fan of the Predator franchise ever since I saw the original film years ago when I was a kid. I was around 11 or 12 years old, rented from Blockbuster, and just fell in love with the movie. And I've liked a number of the sequels as well. Loved a number of the sequels too. Like Predator 2, while not as good as the first film, there's a lot I appreciate about it. I like the urban setting, the city setting I think is great. I think Danny Glover is doing like a really great job as this police detective, trying to figure out like why all these horrific murders are happening around the city, which is Los Angeles, and this kind of like futuristic dystopian, near futuristic dystopian take on LA. I think that was really cool. Predators, I think, is like super underappreciated, where we're now on an alien world and we have all these different people from all walks of life and have combat prowess or are deadly in their own right, but now they're going up against the deadliest hunter, the greatest hunters in the galaxy. I thought that was really cool. I liked the cast too. I thought Adrian Brody was interesting casting with that. Then of course we had, the Predator, which is, in my opinion, still the worst and really the only truly bad standalone Predator movie in the franchise. But you think it was going to be good because it's, Shane Black, who of course was in the original Predator film. He was punching up the script while they were making the original movie back in the day. And of course, he's made and written and directed a lot of great action films over the years. He's like, oh, he's a perfect choice for it. And he delivered by far the worst Predator movie, just changing a lot of the history and then the lore. Instead of this culture of hunters essentially chasing down, hunting, killing the most dangerous game across the galaxy, across the universe. Instead, they just want to harness all the autism for the most autistic members of like a specific species and then inject the autism into themselves. It was bonkers. It was wild. And yes, you had the AVP films, of course, the crossover movies with the Alien franchise. In the first one, it's a big, dumb WWE match, big wrestling match. It has its moments. Not everything works in it, but, it's an easy watch. AVP Requiem, I think, is the worst of either franchise, both Alien and Predator. It's just wretched across the board. There's really just nothing about it that I enjoy. However, we've since seen the resurrection, the resuscitation, if you will, of the Predator franchise, I think, under Dan Trachtenberg, giving us Prey, kind of a back-to-basics approach, a nice period piece, following this, a Native American who has to battle the Predator, which I think is really, really cool. Then this year, we also had another Predator film released earlier with Predator Killer of Killers, this animated anthology movie, which exploring these different time periods in human history, the Viking period, feudal Japan, and then World War II, and then something else towards the end. I thought that was awesome. So I was really looking forward to Predator Badlands because I think just Dan Trachtenberg and his people have just been doing like a really good job with the franchise these last few years. I'm excited what they're going to do in the future. And I'm very happy to say that Predator Badlands arrives as another fun and bold entry in a franchise that's just been wonderfully shepherded by Trachtenberg and his team. It doesn't rehash the same hunter versus human template, but it kind of flips it entirely, and that's what's so great about the movie. For the first time, the story centers on a Predator himself, Deck, who's a runt among his kind, a cast out and just desperate to prove he deserves a place in this just brutal warrior culture that essentially shaped him for all these years. And the choice, it doesn't just freshen the formula, it just breathes so much emotional and I think like thematic depth into the story itself with Deck's journey. And Deck's journey, I think, just gains a lot of, powerful, contrast through his uneasy alliance with his character of Thea. played by Elle Fanning, this damaged synthetic from Weyland-Yutani, which, of course, is crossing over the Alien franchise again. And together, the pair of them, they just form the most kind of unexpected and amusing duo in the franchise's history. A predator and an android learning not only to work together, but learning to trust one another as well as they go on this perilous task, hunting down this very dangerous alien animal on this world. And the predators themselves, I have to say, like, they're handled with remarkable restraint and reverence by Trachtenberg and his people. Their culture, the hierarchy, and code of honor aren't just like hinted at. They're explored with a genuine curiosity. And Badlands deepens the lore without drowning it in exposition, portraying like the Yautja. I always thought it was Yauta, but it's Yautja society as harsh, honorable, but at times divided at times. And I think Deck's vulnerability as a societal outcast adds a dimension the franchise has rarely kind of approached, certainly with the Predators. In that inversion, seeing the Predator not as an unstoppable hunter, certainly a badass, no question throughout the movie, but also as someone hunted and despised by his own society. And I think the franchise finds new emotional stakes because of that. It makes it really interesting to me. And Deck is also portrayed by Demetrius Schuster Kolo. I'm going to try to do this again. Demetrius Schuster Kolo Montanagi. I think I nailed it on the second try. Who is this New Zealand actor and this stunt specialist. And apparently, like Trachtenberg, he deliberately wanted someone with stunt prowess and physical presence to bring this Yautja character to life in a really meaningful way. And, Cole Montanagi learned the Yautja language that was developed for the film. And by the way, he's completely subtitled throughout the entire movie, which I really appreciate that. I love that. I was worried they're just going to have him speak in English for the whole thing. They don't. And he performed like much of the role in like the full creature suit, combining practical effects and motion capture to convey emotion through what is typically, a monster role, which of course was made famous by, Kevin Michael Hall, who portrayed the creature in the original film and obviously his first sequel in Predator 2. But Deck just isn't a killing machine. He carries a lot of shame, a sense of being of less essentially than his clan, expects, and he just has this constant dread of failing them and failing himself. And that makes his like victories throughout the film, I think, all the more meaningful as we see them. And by centering on a Predator story, I think the film just gives audiences just a new lens on the franchise. Deck's voice, literally and figuratively, allows for exploration of the Yautja society rather than just the pure human survival, which we often see in the films. And I can kind of see some complaining about that, though. Because the Predator is the protagonist and some of that mystery that surrounded the Yautja in the earlier films is diminished, I suppose. Like, the role demands more emotion, which may shift the tone for, like, just longtime fans, I guess, who preferred the hunter, the pure, cold hunter. But I think this works for the story that they're telling. I wasn't bothered by it personally. And I think visually the film is quite striking too. Just set on this remote and hostile alien planet, the most dangerous planet apparently in the universe, according to the Yautja, according to Weyland-Yutani. And Badlands, it trades like the traditional jungles and cityscapes that we've seen throughout the franchise for more alien terrain, just filled with strange creatures, toxic plants, and a lot of other deadly landscapes and environments too. And the cinematography, like, it's really good. Like, initially it leans into this kind of like bleak atmosphere and these sweeping alien vistas, especially when we're on like the Yautja home planet, which I think was really cool. And just embracing like a sense of like mythic isolation for that culture. Kind of almost Dune-esque in a way, like some of the cinematography, which I thought was really cool. And there's just a lot of other harsh environments. And again, the jagged terrain and the action sequences are just all rooted in some really great tactical survival moments throughout the film. And the action scenes, they remain super visceral and suspenseful, some built on stealth, others brutality, others like fear of death, like all of that's present. But where, earlier films essentially fixated on humans evading death, here the tension comes from, watching a predator earn its right to exist, earn its right to hunt, earn its right to belong in a society that hates it, that rejects it, which I think is really cool. We see its rituals, its strategies. When it gets wounded, we see how it deals with that, and we also see Deck's really hard earned victories, and all of that I think is like really thrilling and fun. And also, as I've been mentioning throughout my review, Badlands, it gives, I think, Weyland-Yutani its best cinematic depiction within the Predator universe yet. They don't suddenly become cartoon villains in this movie. Instead, the company's presence is felt like a cold, like inevitable pressure in the background, encroaching on the Predator's hunt. They're doing what the original Alien films hinted at: studying, cataloging, preparing, always thinking long term, calculating humanity's survival and supremacy, even if it costs countless human lives and resources. They're always thinking about the bottom line, and that's very much present in this movie, which I thought was really cool. And so you also get to see a bit of that alien aesthetic present in this movie too. So I don't want to say too much, but it's there, and I think it's used rather well. And all of this obviously is building toward the inevitable Alien versus Predator movie in the next couple of years. I'm sure that's going to happen before we get even to like the 2030s. We already know we're getting another Alien Romulus sequel at some point. I'm sure there'll be more Predator movies after this one, so that's inevitable. And I'm sure they'll want to do multiple Alien vs. Predator movies too, and I'm excited for it, especially if Trachtenberg has an active role in developing them as a director and as a writer and certainly as a producer. And Elle Fanning, I would say, she's also pretty fun as Thea, and also as another character in the movie as well. I don't want to say too much about that character. I want you guys to experience that for yourselves. But like when we're first introduced to her, I mean, she is this very likable, android, essentially sent there by Weyland-Yutani to study the flora and the fauna of this planet. She has a pretty bubbly personality at first, which I have to admit I was a little concerned about. I was like, oh, is this just going to be a constant like jokey companion? And no, she has her serious moments, and they explain as to why her personality is the way it is in the film. And again, I don't want to reveal too much of the humor that I think actually works between Deck and Thea in this movie, but I really liked it. It kind of gave me it reminded me of the relationship between Kratos from the God of War game, specifically 2018 Ragnarok, his relationship with the character of Mimir, who is essentially this head that he attaches to his belt, and they have like a back and forth. Their relationship, especially in 2018, it feels very similar to Deck and Thea's relationship here. And just their back and forth, I ended up really, really enjoying. And overall, like the result that we have is a film that expands the franchise with ambition and a lot of elegance, rather than just trying to imitate, Predator, the original 1987 film, which, yes, it's still my favorite movie. I don't think Badlands managed to beat that. That film has a nearly 40-year legacy to try to live up to. But this is very good. I think Badland also just charts a confident new path for itself. It dares to do something differently within this franchise, which for the most part has delivered a lot of entertaining sequels. But I like that it added a new element that makes it kind of stand on its own. I appreciate that. At the same time, it respects the franchise's primal DNA. The thrill of the hunt, the fear of the unknown, while daring to give those things a lot more purpose now. Its world feels even larger. Its monster more human. Its story more mythic, or at least in the case of Deck, specifically, because of course you have all these other predators which are very much monsters through and through. But I like that because he's so different, and they say that he's so different. You're still invested, and you still, I think, really like him. You appreciate him. And if Prey essentially like reclaimed the franchise's roots, Badlands, it grows new ones. Honestly, it proves that the Predator universe can evolve. That its creatures are more than just snarling killers, and that there are still fresh, compelling stories and ideas waiting in the shadows of alien jungles, and that these things can be explored like really, really thoroughly and in a super, super fun way. Predator now, and people have been asking for this for years, that Predator be a main character in the film. Like, we follow his adventure, we follow his journey, and we got that. And I think for the most part, it does it really well. If I have any big criticisms, is that there certainly is a little more humor in this movie than in past Predator films, and not every single joke lands, sure, but a lot of it did work for me. A lot of it I did find funny and charming, but it still has that viciousness. And I guess that the last thing people are going to bring up about this movie, and I should too, obviously, with this review, is the fact that this movie is rated PG-13, which when that was announced about, I want to say like a month ago, not too long ago, that concerned me. That certainly concerned me, since, as far as I know, all the other entries in the franchise have been R. Maybe it was AVP, the first one, R. I can't remember if that was PG-13 or R. I think it might have been PG-13. In any case, they still do a lot of great gory sequences in here. Just not a single drop of red blood, I suppose. There's plenty of alien blood. Green, yellow, orange, brown, black, all that, and plenty of android milk blood just spraying everywhere throughout this movie. And there are some great action sequences that involve the androids in this movie. I don't want to go into too much detail with that when you guys experience it yourselves, but it wasn't on my mind when I was watching the movie that's like, oh, this is a PG-13 Predator film. It worked. It worked with what it was doing, and I think it's great. Again, Predator Badlands. It's just. Not only is it a continued return to form for the franchise, which I think has been doing very well under Dan Trachtenberg, it's a breakthrough of the other types of stories that you can tell within this world. And it makes me excited to see the other stories that we're going to eventually get. I'm really looking forward to what Trachtenberg has next, him and his people have next. I hope he shepherds the Alien vs. Predator movie. And I hope, he can inject some of his creativeness into the Alien franchise, which, even under the 20th Century Studios and Disney, I think it's been kind of a mixed bag, even still, for Romulus. But we'll see. But overall, I really enjoyed Predator Badlands. I think it's a super fun sci-fi action horror film, and it just tells a really fun story with the character of Deck, and I want to see more of these stories in the future. What about you guys? What are your thoughts on Predator Badlands? Do you really like it, as much as I did? You more mixed on? Do you downright hate it? Maybe you were like, the only good Predator movie to me is The Predator by Shane Black. You know what this movie needed? More pussy jokes. Everyone just should have been making pussy jokes in this movie. Go ahead and let me know, chat.